Okay, guys, welcome to Melig Perfumes. I'm in my bedroom here, very hot day. Melig Perfumes online lesson. This is an example lesson. And today we're going to break down a simple formula, a formula that's very similar to Prada L'Homme Extreme. This is basically a study in soft woods in perfumery. So today I'm going to show you one way that I teach people how to make perfumes. And this one way, this is where we break down a formula. So I present my students with a formula, and then we break it down and we do some analysis, and we smell the materials, and we create a perfume. And the formula today, as I said, it smells similar to Prada L'Homme, but this is a very good base for any kind of soft orris, soft iris, soft woods, creamy, smooth perfume base. So you can watch along and you can participate at home. And I hope you enjoy this video. So from time to time, I'll pause the videos, and I hope you come along well with this. So let me share the formula with you right now. This is a very short and it's a simple formula, and it's a very effective formula. It's long lasting. It is diffusive. It's an attractive smelling formula. It's a modern smelling formula, and it's quite nice. Just to let you know, that cage back there, that is my pet ferret. Anyways, we're all hanging out in the cool room today. So let me share. Here is the formula. I hope you can see it on your screen. And here are the materials that you will need today to study with me. And hopefully you have these materials. If you join me for lessons, I will send you a list of materials that you'll need to study perfumery with me. All of these materials in this formula, they're very common. They're not rare. They're not strange or unique. And so we have Ionone, Ethyl Linalool, beta Ionone, alpha Ionone, Citronellol with an O, phenethyl alcohol, Orris Givco, methyl anthranilate, isoe super, Cedarwood Virginia, Polysantol, Bergamot Givco, dihydromercenol, Habanolide, Helvetolide, ambroxan, Coumarin, Ethyl Vanillin, and methyl pamplemousse. These are all very common perfume materials, most of which are human isolated materials. So these are very common human isolated materials. Yet this perfume has a very natural, soft smell. Many of these materials aren't completely synthetic. It's kind of a long story. There's many materials which are neither entirely natural or entirely synthetic. So it's kind of a different thing. So I present you with this formula and the list of materials. You can pause the video right now and you can go out and you can get these materials from your laboratory. And again, if you are studying with me, then you will already have these materials ready. I always give my students a list of the materials. I tell them what we're going to be studying, or I give them time to gather the materials while we're studying in class. So there you go. We have a list of materials. This is a soft, woody perfume that we'll make today. Now, the second step is to really take a look at the individual materials, what they smell like, and to break down the formula and to really examine what they smell like. We have to know what each one smells like. We have to know how long each material lasts, and we have to know how strong each material is. So in this formula, I think there's about 15 materials. We should really get to know each one of these materials. And so that's what we do. When you're studying with me, with Matthew, we take our time and we smell each one of these materials in class. So let me bring you back to the formula. So hedione, for example. Hedione, I know a lot about hedione just from the experience from working with it so much. And an experienced perfumer, obviously, hedione is all of these are very common materials, but hedione is very super useful. It's useful in every type of perfume. And what hedione really does is it brings some diffusion, it brings some lightness to a perfume, it brings transparency, it blends many of the materials together. And the interesting thing about hedione is if you smell it on your arm, you can hardly smell it at all. It's not strong. It has a very low impact value. So it doesn't punch you in the face. You can hardly smell it at all, but it does have a positive effect on nearly every kind of perfume. You can smell it from, or its effect can be felt from right from the opening of a perfume. It just brightens everything up. It lifts everything. It's slightly creamy, slightly waxy, very, very light. And it's just a beautiful material to include in many of your perfume formulas. So this kind of material, hedione, I'm going to make a note here. We can either call this technically it's classified as a jasmine material. I do believe the hedione molecule is actually found in jasmine flowers, if I'm correct. But really, the way perfumers use it is they use it for blending. So we can call it a blender in a way. In that manner, it's somewhat similar to white musks. Hedione is a very light and transparent material. And so I will usually email these formulas to my students to study. Okay, my students will take a look at these formulas the night before we study in class. So hedione is a light, blending, transparent material. You can make notes on these Excel files, okay? You can make notes on the Excel files that I give you. And another very good thing to do is as we go through the formula, you smell one material at a time. And I always record the formulas and I always record the meetings so you can go back and watch the lesson again at home. And you can make as many notes as you want. In fact, studying perfumery, of course, you're going to make something, but along the way of making it, you really have to study as you're making something, dissect and analyze the formula as you're making it. And another very good, important piece of information, when I present you with a formula, you want to find the basic impact value, how strong a material is, and you want to know how long this material lasts. So there's basically two ways you can do this. You can compare different materials with each other, and over time, you'll know, okay, this, for example, maybe iso E super is 4 times as strong as hedione, and then maybe sandalwood is like twice as strong as iso E super, or you can make these comparisons over time, but there's a quick way. There's a very fast way to get these impact values, and there's a quick way to know how long a material lasts. And it's a useful website. It's called www.perfumersworld.com. perfumersworld.com. And I'll share this website with you right now. So let me share the Perfumers World website. Okay, so we have the Perfumers World website, yes? And in the search bar on the top, we can type in Hedione. And so we have two versions of Hedione here. We have Hedione regular and Hedione high cis, which is a little stronger than regular Hedione. So click on Hedione, and what we're looking for is three things. Okay, so we've gone from the formula, from the Excel sheet, we've taken a look at a single material, and then we've gone to the Perfumers World website to quickly gather the most important information about each material. You want to gather three pieces of information. How long does this material last? How strong is this material? And basically, what does it smell like? Okay, so let's take a look at these three pieces of information from the perfumersworld.com website. It's a very useful, quick way to gather information. So again, let's look at Hedione. So here, Hedione, we can read this here. And it says, Hedione is a fresh, natural, oily jasmine, sweet green, extremely persistent, flower, floral, fruity, magnolia. Okay. The language that they use to express what Hedione smells like. I mean, really, you do have to smell it for yourself. So when we're studying perfume materials, you want to smell them for yourself, and you want to go online and read what other people have to say about a material. Don't just read online, and don't just smell everything just alone. You want to do both. And sometimes your observations will be very different from what it says. So for example, with this one here, it says Hedione is a fresh, natural, oily jasmine, sweet green. This is all very true, but the first thing that I would say is that it's very, very light, okay? Some people can hardly smell it at all. So just something to keep in mind. Sometimes your personal observations will be different from the website, okay? So we can read this and we can see here, it says jasmine. It's supposed to be a jasmine material, but again, it's very, very light. And then another piece of very important information, relative odor impact of 65 and lifetime on the scent strip. These two pieces of information. So a 65 impact, you will learn this is a very light impact material. It's not very strong, but it lasts 160 hours. So basically, it's between a middle and a base note. Almost a base note, okay? Like 160 hours is quite a long time. Generally speaking, base notes will last more than 100 hours. Middle notes will last between 100 hours and 20 hours. And top notes will last less than 20 hours. There's no specific rule. There's no specific rule, but that's my basic opinion. Okay, that's my basic opinion. So, guys, we have this information about our material number one, Hedione. You smell it yourself. You go to the Perfumers World. And there are other websites too to look at these materials. And we see it has a lifetime of 160 hours. And we see it has an impact of 65. So basically, it's a long-lasting middle to base note. Many people call Hedione a middle note. I'm not sure why, but it's a very long-lasting middle note. Okay, again, there's no real specific hard categorization of middle to base. Okay, that's a different conversation. But let's put this information in our notes. So we should know this as we're making this perfume. So let's go to our notes here. And I'm going to move all of these guys down. And I'm going to put my notes here in Hedione. The impact is about 65, so it's low impact. And then the life is a lifetime of 160 hours. So it's basic mid-base, something like this. Now, guys, typically in my classes, what we'll do is we'll gather those 3 pieces of information for each one of these materials. So for example, for Ethyl Linalool, how long does it last? What does it smell like basically? And how strong is it? So I'm going to put this video on pause right now, and I'm going to gather all of this information. And usually in my class, in my online lessons, we'll be doing this together and we'll discuss with each other, you know. So usually in my class, we'll be going through each one of these materials individually together. We'll smell them. Together, we'll go to the Perfumers World, or we'll go to some other websites to gather some information about each individual material. And we'll smell them, we'll talk about them, about each individual materials. And usually, this takes about 1 hour. We smell, we chat, we smell, we gather information, we talk to each other. There's usually a group of maybe between 5 and 10 people, something like this. And we break down the formula. So I'm going to put this video on pause. I'm going to gather those 3 pieces of information for each one of the materials in this Prada L'Homme type formula. And then I'll see you back here in the video. So let me get those 3 pieces of information. And then we'll begin to see the formula will begin to come together. You'll really understand it much better. So let me pause now. Okay, guys, I am back. There's Boo Boo. I'm back and I've put in those 3 vital pieces of information for each one of the materials in our Prada L'Homme type formula. So let's take a look at how I've included these very important pieces of information, what the material smells like, okay, how long it lasts, and how strong the material is. So let's take a look at these 3 pieces of information for each one of the materials within our formula. Let's do that now. So I'll bring you to the formula here. And as you can see, Hedione, now very, very important, these numbers, okay? Let me zoom in a little bit more. These numbers, the IMP 65, this impact value of 65, this is taken from that perfumersworld.com website. And as you're learning perfumery over the years, you may sometimes agree with the values this website gives, or you may disagree sometimes. And that's really up to you to figure out how accurate the description of these materials are. Now, I can barely smell hedione, but they do give it an impact value of 65. So what that means is, yes, you don't smell it very much, okay? Well, let me say this first. A very medium smelling, okay, a medium strength perfume material, this will have an impact value of 100, okay? Let me say that again. A medium smelling perfume material will generally have an impact value around 100, from between 90 and maybe 110. This is considered middle of the road. Below 70, below 60, you will have a hard time sometimes smelling materials. Certainly below like 20, you will hardly smell anything at all. And then anything over 100, 110, let's say 150 or 200, it's going to be quite strong. And there are some materials that have an impact value in the thousands. So we have to be really careful dealing with those materials. Nothing crazy today, but so the hedione has an impact value of 65, which means it's actually, when you smell it, you can barely smell it, but the impact value is still quite high. So that means it has a large influence on the perfume. Going back to the formula. So, and all these numbers, again, given by perfumersworld.com, and it has a 160 hours of lifetime. So it lasts quite a while. Next material, which is ethyl linalool. Here, let me unbold this. Our next material here, ethyl linalool. And the linalool materials, again, they're very common top notes found in nearly every perfume. Almost every perfume has linalool in the top notes. Not everyone, but it's a very common material, okay? So ethyl linalool, impact value of 100, that's very accurate, I believe. And about 18 hours. And if we were together in class, you smell it, and yes, it smells like a fresh herbal, very clean, almost like a window, I don't want to say window cleaner, that sounds negative, but it smells like a very cleaning material. It's very clean and fresh. Linalool is found, it's a molecule, and ethyl linalool, these are molecules that are found in lavender and rosemary and in bergamot and in citrus materials. And linalools are also found very often in many green materials, citrus materials, and florals. And they impart the freshness to a lot of materials. When you smell linalool alone for the first time, you'll be able to smell it everywhere. So that's linalool, fresh herb. Next, we have the beta Ionone here. And the Ionone materials, guys, they are very powdery materials. They're very, very powdery. And if you want to create a perfume that's very soft and that's very satin-like in the touch, if you want to make a nice powdery floral perfume or very soft woods perfume, like this perfume will be, you must use some Ionone materials. And these Ionone materials are from either violet flowers have Ionones in them, this powdery essence, and also orris root, orris butter, the iris plant has Ionones naturally in them. And so here we have two different types of Ionones. We have the beta and the alpha. They smell slightly different from each other. One is more woody, one is more sweet, one is more floral, one is a little bit more smooth, one is a little bit drier, one is more sweet. So you will really have to study these materials on your own to make the difference between them. But in today's formula, we will be dealing with many powdery materials. Also, I should say, just to bring your attention to this now. This Orris Givco is also a very powdery material. So the beta ionone, the alpha ionone, and the Orris material, Orris Givco, which is a synthetic Orris accord from a very famous perfume molecule manufacturing company. This Orris Givco is also very powdery. Okay. And so we see the beta ionone is slightly more powerful than the alpha ionone, and they're both powdery, and they both last about 100 hours. So right between middle and base notes, somewhere along there. I'm sorry, I should have also done that, sorry. Okay. Next material we have is Citronellol. And this is a very different material. This is a very rosy material. It's very rosy and lemon smelling. So sometimes when people smell Citronellol, they will smell lemons or like a lemon cleaner, or they will also smell a kind of rosy material. Now, I should say when we're doing this in class, we'll be going material by material, smelling them, talking about how long each material lasts, talking about the nuances, and all sorts of different details like this. This is just an example lesson. Okay, let me continue on. I'll go back to the formula. So we have all of the most important information for all of these materials. Now, what we can do is we can begin to classify these materials into groups according to what they smell like. And this will give us a very good idea of what the overall perfume should smell like in the end. So I'm just highlighting the names of all the materials so you don't get confused. And what we'll do now is we will group these materials according to how they smell, according to the family that in which they belong. So, and also the grouping of the materials is not an exact science. It's often, when we take a formula like the one I presented here, and we find the impact, we find how long the material lasts, and then we find what it smells like, we begin to group the materials. And then we want to see, so for example, you will see in this formula, a lot of this formula is made up of woods and then powdery materials. So this is the main heart character of this perfume. So by taking a formula that I present you with, by examining the single materials and then grouping the materials, you will really begin to understand the perfume. And in the future, most importantly, you'll be able to create your own soft, powdery wood type perfumes, right? I don't want to teach you just how to copy something. And I should say this formula is not an exact copy of Prada L'Homme. It is not, okay? And I can tell you later, where do we get these types of formulas? They're not so rare to come by. Perfumers trade with each other. We exchange knowledge and information. It's kind of like our textbooks. It's just something that we always do. Certainly, you never want to copy and sell someone's formula. That's a horrible thing to do. And it's not just an unethical thing to do, but it's very boring to do as well. So anyways, let's classify these materials, and then we can really begin to see, okay, how is this thing going to end up smelling? So you can really start to imagine what the perfume's going to smell like. So classifying these materials. Again, I'm going to classify together all of the wood materials. So let's do that for this moment. I will zoom out. We'll zoom out. And I'm going to classify the woody materials. And first of all, the most prominent woody material in this formula is definitely iso-E super, which is this transparent, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful cedarwood material. It smells like buttery woods. My friend, she says she classifies iso-E super as a sexy wood. It's clean, it's buttery. I feel it's warm and masculine. And it's very soft. It's got a beautiful texture to it. So iso-E super, and you'll notice here, guys, this is 43% of the formula. Look at that. So with iso-E super at such a high percentage of the formula, you know this is going to be a warm formula, okay? It's got an impact value of 20, so it's very soft, and it lasts for 280 hours, so it's a very long, it's a base note, okay? Iso-E super can be classified either as a blending material, because the impact value is very low. It's a blending, blends many materials together. Iso-E super can be classified as a cedar wood material because it does smell like cedar wood. Iso-E super can be classified nearly as like a musk because it does like a synthetic modern musk, because iso-E super does make a perfume much more diffusive. It brings a perfume outwards, and it makes something called silage. It brightens. Iso-E super brightens. It brings out a perfume. So when you're walking by someone, they can smell that perfume. Iso-E super does this. Ionone does this. All of the white musks, they do this. They create a silage. So when you're using the different white musks, the different kind of wood, cedar, transparent materials, when you're using Ionone, it takes those essential oils, it takes the natural materials, and it makes the perfumes bloom outwards, and it makes them to be more diffusive. Okay. So let's continue classifying the woods together. So iso-E super is a woody material. Cedarwood, obviously, is a woody material. Polysantol is a cedarwood material. And so we have 45% of this perfume is soft woods. And I say soft because the iso-E super is the #1 material. It's very soft. There's a little bit of Cedarwood Virginia that is, you can see the impact value is 1 of 90. So it's a little stronger. And then we have a little bit of the Polysantol, and this is a very diffusive sandalwood perfume. Materials. All sandalwood materials are soft. This Polysantol, it really brings a lot of diffusion to this wood accord. So guys, 45% of this perfume is soft wood materials. Okay. And if this was a live lesson, what I would ask you to do is to smell these 3 soft materials together. Smell them together and really express and talk about what you smell. All the nuances. What's the difference between Polysantol and cedarwood? what's the difference between the various woods in this formula? So you can see that we have quite a collection of woods here. Next, I'm going to classify and put together the various powdery materials. So let's look at this. So the powdery materials we have here, powders, is the beta ionone, the alpha ionone, as well as the Orris Givco. And so of the powdery materials, approximately 5% approximately 5% of the total perfume is powders. That may not sound like much, but that is a significant amount. This, I should say, these powders together with these woods, yes, make a powdery, woody accord. These powders and these woods, they make a very soft, beautiful accord that is at the heart of this formula. Okay? And then now the rest of the materials, they will give character to this powdery, woody central accord. If you've ever smelled Prada L'Homme, it is basically soft, powdery woods with some nuances of other materials in there to make it more interesting. For example, if you'll have to excuse me, my wife is behind me. Oh well, it's a very hot day. If we had a perfume, let's say you sprayed it on, and from the beginning to the end, it was just very simple powdery woods without much character. It might be nice to wear, but it's probably also a little bit boring. Let me put my video on pause for a moment, just a second. So you will see the rest of the perfume is to really, the rest of the materials in the perfume, beyond the essential powdery woods materials, it's to bring some life, to bring some lift, to bring some interest, some sweetness, a little bit of flowers, a little bit of florals, and also some musks to bring more diffusion to the perfume. Okay, so let's go back to the formula. So again, guys, this here is, I would call this the central heart to the Prada L'Homme type perfume. Isole super cedarwood, polysantol, and then some powdery materials, the beta, alpha ionones, and the Orris Givco. This will result in a very nice, soft, powdery material. Next, what do we want to do next? So we want an opening. We want an opening to the perfume. Something fresh. Yes, we want something. We want a fresh opening to the perfume. And this perfume is basically unisex, but somewhat geared more towards masculine, more towards the men. Although I smelled this perfume, it's absolutely beautiful. Anybody can wear it for sure, for sure. But I should say, because it's geared more towards the men, part of the opening of this perfume is methyl pamplemousse, which is a somewhat tart, somewhat floral grapefruit type material. And again, if you were part of the live class, when we're in class together, we'll smell it together. And you just have to take my word for it. It does smell like a little bit like grapefruits, which is a classic masculine perfume opening. Okay, so we'll take a look at the opening materials, which are the top notes to this perfume. One thing you'll notice is that they don't last as long as the woods, because you can think of the top notes or the opening to the perfume as this kind of doorman to the hotel. He's greeting you inside, so it should smell fresh, very inviting, something nice. And in this case, it's kind of a masculine doorman, some grapefruits, okay? And he's gonna bring you in to the perfume. So let's take a look at the opening materials. So with the opening materials, we have, actually, yeah, we have some Bergamot, which is a classic top note material. Let me move these down. We have, where is he? And methyl pamplemousse. So a very simple opening to the perfume. Although both of these materials do last a little while, I should say that. Bergamot Givco is a synthetic bergamot material. It smells very fresh, very beautiful, but it lasts much longer than natural bergamot material. It's also cheaper. And then methyl pamplemousse lasts much longer than natural natural grapefruit essential oil. And this is a bit off topic, but natural essential oil of grapefruits is not often used in perfumery because natural grapefruit essential oil doesn't really smell like grapefruits. So kind of off topic, but very often perfumers will make a grapefruit accord. They'll make a grapefruit accord with some natural materials, some synthetic materials to create a grapefruit opening. But in this case, this is a very simple opening to the perfume. We've got bergamot and grapefruit, two synthetic bergamots and grapefruit materials together. Again, bergamot is the most common top note material in probably all of perfumery for good reason. It's a beautiful, beautiful material. Now, let's see, what are we adding in this through the middle of the perfume, right? We've got the bergamot, the fresh citrus opening here, and we've got the powdery woods through the middle and down to the base. But what else are we adding to the soft woods to give it some character? Well, basically what we're adding is a little bit of rose. And rose materials, just a light touch into soft powdery woods is always a good idea. It's quite nice. It's quite nice. It just gives a little bit of fruitiness. One way I think of flowers is that basically flowers are kind of like powdery fruits, to be honest. If you think about rose, what does it smell like? Rose smells like lychee. Rose smells like apples. Rose smells like cherries sometimes. Rose can smell like a little bit lemony sometimes. But it's a little bit fluffy, and it's a little bit airy, and it's a little bit powdery. So it's just one way of thinking about flowers, guys. Flowers, you can think of them kind of as powdery, fruity materials. And we're going to add a little bit of these fruity materials through the woods just to create some design, something interesting in the woods. So let's take a look at the formula. I should say another part of the fruity elements within the woods here It's also the methyl anthralinate. So we've got two rose materials and methyl anthralinate, which is kind of like a grape soda, generic fruity orange flower. It's really quite unique. You have to smell it for yourself. And if you take my classes, you will. It just brings a little bit, there's my ferret. He's so cute. It brings a nice life to the woods. So let's look at the formula. So here, again, guys, we have the heart of the formula, the woods, the powdery woods, and then we've got the opening, right? The opening, which is basically grapefruit, citrus / bergamot, right? And then, guys, we have to add some life to the woods. Some candy, some fruits. And what do we have in there? Well, we have hydroxycitronellol, sorry, not hydroxy, just citronellol with an O, which is a rosy material. Okay, why did I do, what happened there? And then we have also phenylethyl alcohol, which again is a rosy material. Oh, guys, I'm so sorry. I should have included the ethyl linalool with the opening materials. That's right. Sorry, guys. Very sorry. Let's go back and look at the top note material. So we actually have the ethyl linalool, we have the bergamot, and we have the methyl pamplemousse, the grapefruit material together. Sorry, I missed. We do have the ethyl linalool, which is a soft, herbaceous, slightly woody, clean, bright material. And basically, we can use ethyl linalool on top of any woods to bring lift and brightness to it. If you've ever smelled rosewood essential oil, if you've ever smelled hinoki, or even kind of like pine, not really pine notes, but sometimes we have these woods that are very fresh and bright and they smell like they can clean your nose. That's kind of like what linalool smells like. You'll have to smell it, but what linalool does is it will take those woods and it will lift them up into the citrus materials. So linalool is often used as a bridge between woods into the citrus materials. This is also true. This lifting of woods into citrus, this is also true of the methyl pamplemousse. Now, this is getting a little advanced, but if you've ever opened a grapefruit and you smell the inside of a grapefruit, there's this white meat. It's called the pith in English, P-I-T-H. Sorry, P-I-T-H, pith. And this pithy material, it's a little bit bitter, it's a little bit dry, it's citrusy, but it's also a little bit woody. If you've ever smelled petitgrain essential oil, it also has this dry, bitter, pithy element. So linalool also has a bright herbaceous that easily blends with citrus materials but it also has this dry woodiness that allows it to blend into the woods. So taking a look again, sorry, back at the opening notes of this perfume. So these are the opening citrus materials. You know, I shouldn't make this a little bit brown, I would say. These are the opening bright citrus materials, the ethyl linalool, the methyl pamplemousse, and the Bergamot Givco. The ethyl linalool and the methyl pamplemousse will allow these woody elements to very easily, it will allow all of these woody elements here to blend very easily into the bergamot. Okay. After taking several lessons with me, we'll go over these sorts of principles many times and you'll get used to it. So anyways, very good, very good. So let's arrange this formula. I feel what we should do is just a second. We can take these materials because they open the perfume and place them above the woods. So this is a better interpretation. Okay. At the very top, we have the bergamot opening. Methyl pamplemousse and ethyl linalool. These allow for the blending of the wood materials into the citrus. Now, again, how do we dress these powdery woods to make them a little bit more interesting, a little bit candy, a little bit life, a little bit sweetness, something dynamic inside of there? Well, we can add some fruity materials. So let's look at these fruity materials that we're adding to the middle part of our perfume just to make it a little bit more interesting. Okay. So here are these fruity type materials, and we're adding them into the middle area of our perfume. Citronellol, phenyl ethyl alcohol. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that. Why are you there? And oh my goodness. Oh goodness, guys, I'm so sorry. I want to add the dihydromercenol to the top. I feel I'm off my game now. I forgot to include the dihydromercenol. The dihydromercenol, it should go to the top. This is also a very bright lemony material, guys. This dihydromercenol, it's part of the top notes accord. This is very bright, very clean, a very simple, bright metallic lemon. It will bring even more lift to the bergamot. So, sorry, let's look at the formula. He is there as well. The dihydromercenol, this very metallic, sharp lemon note right on the top notes, the top of the top notes. Oh, top of the top notes. There he is. Okay. Now, back to some life, some fruity, some interest to the woods. So we've got these two rosy materials here, the citronellol and the phenyl ethyl alcohol. We've also got this very fruity, very fruity material, the methyl anthranilate. And actually, these guys deserve to be even more red. Okay, quite red, quite fruity. The citronellol, the phenyl ethyl alcohol, the methyl anthranilate, they're going to bring some interest into the woods. You will smell them if you look at the lifetime, 20 hours, 60 hours, and 48 hours. They're going to also kind of act as a bridge between the citruses and the woods. Well, they most definitely will. So let me arrange them again. We've got some life, some fruitiness, some floral, fruity, floral interest into some of the woods. Very good. The methyl anthralinate will certainly combine nicely. It lasts 48 hours, which is, in the territory of middle notes, the phenylethyl alcohol, methyl anthralinate, citronellol. Actually, officially speaking, citronellol, officially, there's no hard set rules, but the phenylethyl alcohol, citronellol, and methyl anthralinate, they are all classified as middle notes. And so they will bring this fruity touch down into the woods. Again, middle notes lasting between 20 and maybe 100 hours, approximately. Okay. Now, still, these woods are slightly boring. They're pretty much like powdery, very soft cedar, which is, I mean, it is a beautiful accord. These are beautiful accords here. You can consider them as a wood accord here, or a powder wood, or a woody powdery accord all together here. It is quite beautiful. But you want to bring in a little bit of sweetness, maybe, into these woods. Okay, something sweet. And we've got two very sweet materials. Actually, one is much sweeter than the other. So we've got two sweet materials here in this formula. One is the Coumarin, one of the oldest synthetic materials in all of perfumery. And then the other one is Ethyl Vanillin, which is a little bit younger, I believe. Anyways, Coumarin, again, if we were in class smelling this together, you will see it's a very interesting material because it smells woody. It smells like freshly cut hay. It smells cool and spicy. Coumarin is very often used in masculine perfumes. It smells like it has many nuances of many different little herbs and spices inside of it. Coumarin is not as sweet as ethyl vanillin, certainly not as sweet as ethyl vanillin, and not as sweet as regular vanillin either. But it's more complex, and it brings a nice depth and a nice, how could I explain, complexity, a complex sweetness to these very clean, very simple powdery woods. And the accord between, for example, isoe super, a powdery wood, or sorry, let's say isoe super, a Ionone, methyl Ionone, or in this case, maybe alpha or beta Ionone, and Coumarin, these three create a very beautiful, very simple perfume, actually. There are several simple perfumes actually inside of this perfume, several harmonies, which if we were smelling together in class, you will find them. But anyways, so we have two sweet materials to bring some depth, to bring some weight, to bring some strength, some sweetness, and just some warmth to the perfume. Okay, so let's look at the formula. We've got the Coumarin and the ethyl vanillin here, and these are sweet base materials. A word of warning, guys, take a look at the impact of ethyl vanillin. It's just crazy. That's a 600 impact. It's very, very powerful material. Please be careful when you're using it. You will discover very quickly if you add too much, it will ruin your formula. Okay, so we've got these sweet materials. again, to bring, you know, depth and a resinous life. I don't know how to explain. Just to bring something really nice into the woods. Sweeten up the woods, right? Last and finally, we'll look at 3 materials. Ambroxan, which is woody. This is a very clean cedarwood, very bright, very beautiful material. You only need a little bit to make your perfume very diffusive. Then we have Helvetolide, which is a little fruity white musk. And when I say fruity, I mean just a tiny little bit. Basically, Habanolide and Helvetolide and most every other white musk smells like clean laundry. So when you hear white musks, think clean laundry, and then maybe a little bit of something else. So Habanolide, people say clean laundry and the smell of like a hot metal or hot iron. Helvetolide, people say, you know, clean laundry and a little bit of pear or something, just a little nuance. And Ambroxan, although it's not classified as a white musk, it is a very diffusive, woody, it's called a woody amber. It brings warmth and diffusion to almost any perfume. A lot of Creed perfumes use a tremendous amount of Ambroxan. Aventus uses an incredible amount of Ambroxan. Because what Ambroxan does, and this is how it's kind of similar to white musks. Ambroxan brings this huge diffusion. So when you're walking by someone, they can smell your perfume. When you walk into the room, people can smell your perfume. That's what Ambroxan does. So I just classify these last 3 materials as kind of like power makers. They're actually, the Helvetolide is a middle note, maybe lasts 40 to 60 or 70 hours. But Habanolide and Ambroxan, they last like forever. They last a very long time. And I should say actually the sandalwood, the Polysantol, and almost all sandalwood materials also last a very long time. But the reason I left these 3 materials to look at the end of the formula is that they really bring a lot of diffusion to the perfume. And these 3 perfume materials, they go along with the theme of the perfume in that it's fairly warm, okay? The central accord of this perfume is warm, powdery, soft woods, and the diffusive materials that we use here are also very warm. So the Habanolide, Helvetolide, and Ambroxan. And that's what they do to this perfume. So let's take a look, a final examination of this perfume formula, and then, yeah, I'll carry on with something else. So 1 second here. So these guys, the Habanolide, Helvetolide, Ambroxan, basically they make the entire perfume more diffusive. Okay. So this is our Prada L'Homme type perfume. This formula is a study of soft woods mostly, and I say soft woods because like 50%, as I said, 50% of this perfume is either woods or transparent woods, cedar or sandalwoods, and then also powdery materials. And this is also an examination into how you can use, just keep this in mind, methyl pamplemousse and ethyl linalool. You can use these together to sort of blend the woods into the citrus materials. This was an examination of dressing woods with a little bit of fruitiness, a little bit of rose here. These rose materials, these fruity floral materials, it's only about 2% of the formula, but they give a nice little touch to the woods. Also, guys, the Coumarin, which always goes nice with woods, and Ethyl Vanillin. This is an examination and looking into making a very soft, woody formula, a little bit sweet. And then we have some very diffusive elements to make your perfume more diffusive. Now, what do I do through a typical lesson is we'll go through this formula. We'll look at each element separately. We'll smell them. We'll talk about the materials. We'll exchange ideas. And then you have this formula with you at home. And you can play with it and really get into it and understand how to make your own soft, woody perfumes. What you can do with this formula, again, is you can rearrange the formula or rearrange these materials according to how strong they are. So for example, you could rearrange this formula, the materials starting with Ethyl Linalool, which has an impact of 600, and then the next strongest material, and then all the way down until I think maybe ISOE Super is the softest material in this perfume. So you take this formula and you rearrange it from strong to weak. Then you can also take this formula and you can arrange it according to which materials last longest and which are shortest, right? And then you can also take this formula and you can arrange the elements according to, as we did, groupings, like these are the woods, these are the flowers, these are the citrus materials. Or you can also arrange this formula according to volume of materials. So which material there's the most in this formula, right? So we can do that now. But when I give my students these formulas, you should really arrange them in several different ways, keep several different file copies. So let me show you. So we can arrange this formula according to volume of materials. So 2% 5. Obviously, ISOE Super is going to be at the top. Okay, so we can do this. Let's take these guys. We'll put ISOE Super 43% at the top. The next largest material will be Habanolide, 10% of the formula. That's quite a bit. The next largest material will be Helvetolide, I believe. And then Ethyl Linalool. Could be wrong. Sorry, yeah. Next would be the Bergamot Givco. That was incorrect. Next, beta Ionone. And we have several materials that are all 1.5%. Citronellol, Cedarwood, Virginia, Coumarin, alpha Ionone. They're all at 1.5%. Next, you have ethyl vanillin at 1%. Believe it or not, that's quite a bit of ethyl vanillin. You know, it's 1%, but it is an impact of 600. So it's quite influential in the perfume formula. Next would be Polysantol. And these last two here. So you want to take the formulas that I give you, arrange them to lifetime, who lasts the longest, who lasts the least longest, or you go least longest, the shortest lifetime to the longest lifetime. Then you can really see who are the top notes, who are the middle notes, who are the base notes. You can arrange the materials according to how strong they are, so you'll know when you make a formula in the future, be careful of this guy, or maybe I need to use a lot of this one because it's very weak. Generally speaking, in perfume formulas, the weaker the material, the more it is a blender and the more volume we use. And then if a material is very powerful, the less we use. So arrange your perfumes according to how powerful or how weak they are, and group the materials according to family. I hope this lesson was a little bit helpful for you. This is typically what I do with my students. If you'd like to study with me, we're studying 3 days a week. It's Saturdays and Sundays and Wednesdays for 2 hours. Okay, 2 hours, 2 hours, and 2 hours. My prices are very reasonable. I think incredibly reasonable. By the time you finish one lesson, you will know more about the general formulas. You will know more about the individual materials used in perfumes, and you will have resources and ways to think about making perfumes. Okay, it's not just copy and paste. I'll give you ideas how to make your own perfumes. And this was just one example of the many different ways I teach people how to make perfumes. I hope you have an amazing, amazing day. I'm going to upload this video to my Facebook, to YouTube, maybe Instagram. Come study perfumery with Matt. I have hundreds of formulas, many different styles of building perfumes, fresh perfumes, new perfumes, designer perfumes, very old vintage perfumes, everything. Some days we just concentrate just on smelling. Some days we just make the formulas. We have many ways of learning. I hope you enjoyed today's example lesson, and I will see you and I will study with you. And I love teaching. So guys, take it easy, stay safe, no COVID, and be healthy. Thank you very much. See you guys later. Bye-bye.